Hello everyone and welcome back to Angela's Craft Room. Today I have another off the page project. This is a tea light candle holder. So it holds 12 of those little tea lights. You just get them from the cheap shop. Why I've got an opening at the top is if you were to put scented ones in there, if you were giving them as a gift and you wanted to put some scented ones in there, the scent would come through that hole at the top, but you don't have to put that hole there if you don't want to. And then I've just decorated it with some ribbon and flowers and a sentiment. But today I just wanted to show you how to make the box itself. I may put some ribbon on it, but I'm just not going to worry about the flowers or anything like that. I just mainly wanted to show you how to create it. So we'll get started and you'll see that I've already got a hole in mine, and we're going to go through what happens when you don't have a punch that you can cut that opening open with. So to start with, measurements, I'm using a piece of pumpkin pie cardstock from Stampin' Up, and that measures 9 3/8 of an inch by 6 3/4 of an inch, and then you would score on the long side, which is the 9 3/8. Now when I say score, I'm scoring from top right down to the bottom. So then we're going to score that at 1 1/8, 4 1/8, 5 1/4, and 8 1/4. That's inches. So that's on the long side. Once again, we're going to score at 1 1/8 of an inch, 4 1/8 of an inch, 5 1/4 of an inch, and 8 1/4 of an inch. Then you're going to turn it and you're just going to make 2 scores on this short side. The first one is at 1 1/8 of an inch, and then at 5 5/8 of an inch. Okay, so that's that. And then how I didn't have a punch that I could cut out the top with. So what I did was I used a framelit. Now to do that, because this is too wide to go through your big shot, so I've put my panel of DSP on the top here, and I will give you the measurements of the DSP shortly. But how I did this was I put it sideways, and then what I did was I just had my normal big shot platform, then my thin die adapter, and then what I did was I grabbed hold of my cardstock and wrapped it round the plate so that piece underneath isn't going to cut. And then I just put my oval shape from the stitch shape framelits from Stampin' Up. Then of course I put my other clear plate on top and ran that through, and then that's how I got my opening. So that's a tip. You can use any framelit you've got to make that opening. So that's how I did mine. Okay, now measurements for the DSP that we're going to use. Now the DSP panel that I've already cut out on the top here is 2 3/4 of an inch by 4 1/4 of an inch. Okay, and then you would obviously glue that on first and then do your cut. Even if you're using a punch, you put this on first and then cut that out if you're going to make an opening on yours. Okay, so that's the DSP panel for the top. And then for the sides, you're going to need, now how many do we need? we need one short one here and one short one here, and they measure 2 3/4 of an inch by 7/8 of an inch, and you need 2 of those. And then for the front panel and your back panel, they measure 4 1/4 inches by 7/8 of an inch. Okay, so that's 4 1/4 inches by 7/8 of an inch, and you're going to need 2 of those because you're going to need one for the back and one for the front. Okay, so that's that. So then what we're going to do is we're just going to, no, what I'll do first is I'll do my cutting. So on the sides we're going to have to cut up to the first score line on both sides. So we're just going to do that. And most probably pumpkin pie is not the best colour for you to see. So once we cut all these up, then we just need to take a little, I call it mitre. I don't know, everyone that's watching this, whether that's a term you use. Oh, I just thought I'd cut in the wrong spot then, that would have been terrible. If you have got a punch that you can cut the opening, it does make it a lot easier. So then what we're going to do is we're just going to, what I call mitre, we're just taking like a slither off of each side. And what that does, it just gives you a neater finish when we're gluing it all back together. So it's a really easy project to do. Would be great if you were doing classes. You could teach this one yourself. Or as a gift, or as I say, they'd be wonderful to sell at the markets. If you do a school fete or anything like that. They're not expensive to make. If you get your tea candles, Tealight Candles just from a cheap shop, you will save money there. And I always get asked, how do I work out my pricing for the markets, or if I'm doing a store? When I make something, I write down everything I've used and how much that's cost me to buy. And then it's just, and then adding it up at the end, and then it's entirely up to you what profit margin you're going to put on top of that. So that's just a bit of a tip. Obviously with craft you can't charge for the time it takes you to make it, but you want to cover your materials, and plus be making a little bit of money on top of it as well. So I'm nearly finished doing this part. Just a couple more to go. And I would recommend that you use tear and tape. Some people call it score tape, but I use the Stampin' Up! Tear and tape. and I won't use anything else for projects like this. So then I'm going to score or burnish all my score lines. Just bring in a bit of grid paper. So you're just going to score all those down so you've got nice crisp edges. You can apply your designer series paper like before you glue, or you can do it afterwards. It's entirely up to you. So it's really important that you do burnish your edges so that you get that really nice crisp finish when you put your box together. And you can already see the box coming together now, so that's going there. Nice crisp edges on top. So you can see the box coming together quite easily there. So now we're going to start gluing. So how I would start with, I'd be putting on all the squares. I'm just going to put 2 strips of tear and tape. So you don't have to be really fussy. You're just putting some tear and tape down. I like to put 2 on each square. And as I say, you could add your DSP wallets laying flat if you want, like now, or you can assemble it. Oops. I might even put the tear and tape on the rectangles. So some of these pieces are going to go inside, so I'm just going to bend those. Could just put those onto there first. So we'll just grab my tweezers and just lift them off very easily. I find it's really easy to lift them off with the tweezers. So I'm just going to do I might even take these off as well. Just have to be careful because once the tear and tape sticks, there's no getting it up again. And if you get a bit of tear and tape glue hanging over the edge, you just push it back. You might have seen me just push that piece back. So then I'm just going to bring this in and line it up like that. And I've just got a little piece of cardstock sticking out there. I'm just going to trim that off. You need really sharp scissors when you're doing these projects. And then I'm just going to line that piece up with there. Because we took that little slither off, it should form quite nicely. Just lining it up, just lining it up there, and then this side, just lining it up. Another little piece just on that corner. It's just depends how fussy you are. Then all we're going to do is glue these pieces to the top here. So we'll just take them off. So I always find it easier to do the bottom part first, because this is just going to be forming your top opening. So so you can see I'm just lining up in that corner and just lining up in that corner. Okay, and then you've got your box, and then it's just a matter of closing it like that. So it's a really easy project to do. So all we've got to do now is put our DSP on the sides, and I'm just going to use, I normally wouldn't use snail, I normally use multi-purpose glue, but just so it's a bit quicker for the video, and when you're cutting your DSP, just make sure, especially if it's patterned, that you're cutting it all in the same direction. You don't want your pattern going one way and another way. So that's just for the other side bit. Like that. And then we've just got our two pieces that need to go on the front and back. Just a bit of glue in that corner. Sorry if I'm going out of view, I'm very sorry about that. It's very hard to be looking at the camera plus trying to get that done as well. And then we just have the piece on the front. Now with the piece on the front, if you want to, you can just use a very small oval punch and just put a little punch there, not the full oval. I'll just quickly grab one and show you what I mean. So just like I've just grabbed a 3/4 inch punch, and what I mean is where it's opening here, see how it's a bit difficult for me to open it. So all I do is take a little circle punch, and it most probably would have been easier for me to do this before I glued it all, but you get the drift, and see how you've got that little, so when it's closed, you've just got, you can just pop your finger under there and it's going to open a lot easier rather than not having anything there. And then it's just a matter of popping your, these are just cheap Tealight candles, and as I said, it holds 12, so it's very generous. And these are just the little cheap Tealight candles that you get from your cheap stores, and then that just closes like that. And then I've just got a piece of pumpkin pie ribbon, which I might just, I'll see how we go about putting it. I'd rather put a piece of tear and tape on the back of it, because then I know it's not going to come off. You could use a glue dot if you preferred, but I just like to really make sure that it's not going to come off. Okay, so then I just like to put it up in that corner. Just pop your finger into the loops just to make them sit up, and you're just pressing down on that, and then you can just grab a very sharp pair of scissors and just cut off that ribbon. That's if you want it cut off. You might prefer it to, you do need a very sharp pair of scissors when you're doing that, just to your preferred length. So that's the project for today. So I hope you'll give that a try. And as I said, like with the first one I made, you can add a sentiment and some flowers, but just to save time on the video, I thought all I really need to do is show you how easy it is to make that Tealight candle holder. So I hope that's helpful for you, and I hope you give it a try. Thank you so much for subscribing to my channel. I do appreciate it. And until next time, happy crafting.